first ever play, my first role in The Wizard of Oz, the play we did, was the Wicked Witch of the West. So today, I feel like I'm playing the witch somehow. And of course, in the Hansel and Gretel that you've seen or that you're going to see from the Met, the witch is played by a tenor. And I'm a different kind of singer. I sing even higher than a tenor. I'm a countertenor. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But most importantly, we're going to make cookies. So this is so fun. I think you guys got the list of ingredients, and maybe you have all your ingredients. I'm going to do a little bit of, moving things around. I have my ingredients all set up. So are you guys ready to go? Cookie time? So if you're ready, I have a spatula, I have a bowl, and they match, which is nice, but yours don't have to. And I have my butter that I've had out on the counter, 2 sticks of butter, which is 1 cup of butter. So should we start baking and we can talk while we do it? Should I take off my hat too, because it's a little bit hot? Okay, so take your butter, wrap your butter, and put it in the bowl. Your butter should ideally be room temperature. If it's not room temperature, I'll give you a fix for that. It's not perfect, but cooking is supposed to be fun, and we're gonna figure it out together. So butter goes in, my butter's in the bowl. Then measure yourself out 1 1/3 cup of powdered sugar. I have my powdered sugar here. I measured it out. And so generally when you make cookies, you have to cool the cookie dough so that it doesn't spread and all of this. And this is a special recipe I found where we don't have to put it in the fridge and let it rest, so we can keep going the whole time. And so I'm adding the powdered sugar to the butter. So I've got it all in here, if you can see that. Yeah, there it is. And I have my spatula. And what you want to do, and I'll try and show you down here. This is like I'm learning how to make a cooking show. You want to be mushing the butter together with the powdered sugar. Now, if you're like me, you'll find if you're like me, you'll find that the spatula is hard to do it with. And so, I was practicing this recipe and I decided I'm just going to do it with my hands. And the warmth of your hands, if your butter isn't super room temperature, will help crush it. So I've got my hand in there. Make sure your hands are clean. You can wash them if they're not. But this is so much fun. Powdered sugar, butter, and I'm smushing it all together. Are you guys seeing this? It's so much fun. So what you really want is for it to be combined. I have to lean over like this. You want the sugar almost to disappear into the butter, right? So you can move it in a circle. You can move it between your fingers here. Okay, now what's starting to happen to mine is, you see, it's like the sugar has almost disappeared, and that's what we want. Now I'm gonna try and get some of the butter off my hands. Good luck, it's not easy. You can use the spatula. Here we go. And okay, I've cleaned it off. Now I'm gonna wash my hands. Take a second, get your butter together. Hopefully you guys are even more messy than me. It's fun to get messy, isn't it? Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm still over here. In these little New York kitchens, it's a little difficult to get everything crammed in and keep it all in shot. Okay, so I have my little kitchen towel. It's helpful to have a kitchen towel. You see the professional chefs, they throw it over their shoulder, or you can put it in your apron. It's nice to have it around for when you wash your hands and all that. So now we've got this like this, right? I want to work it a little bit more, so you can stir, 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 like I'm doing here. And you want it to look really, sorry, I'm working it. You want it to look really creamy. And so stir it in together. Now, if you're like me, one of the reasons that I like cooking is that it's so relaxing. I find it relaxing because you're doing something creative and stimulating, and you're making food, which is like, you know, care and love for people. And I guess the witch in Hansel and Gretel, she cares a little too much, right? She has some other ideas about how she wants to use food. But it's so, I find it as an opera singer, the best way to decompress, you know, to not be so worried about all the work I have to do, because I'm focused on creating something and sharing it with people. So maybe you have your butter creamed now. And the next thing we're gonna do is take an egg. So maybe you've got an egg here. I'm gonna move this up a tiny bit. There we go. I have my large egg, and you're gonna crack the egg into the bowl. Great, like that. Very good. Be careful not to get shells in the bowl. And then I have some vanilla extract. Now this is what makes it taste really good. And we're actually gonna put a fair amount of vanilla extract in. So I have my teaspoon measures. Do you have your teaspoons? And I'm gonna do 1, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and put it in. And then you're gonna have to mix again, and you'll see it's all a liquid here. And as you mix it, it's gonna slide all over the place, and it's gonna be hard to combine. But the more you go kind of quickly with it, you can speed up, and then it'll start to look all broken up like that. But I promise, if you keep going, keep stirring quickly, keep going around, you can use your spatula to scrape these edges. See how I did that? And then you can get all the butter incorporated, mix it all in. There we go. Perfect. Keep dope. So now it's almost beaten together, but I'm just going a little bit further with it. You see, it's kind of lumpy now, and yours is probably lumpy too. But if you really use your arm and you beat, you go like that, it'll start to look more and more creamy. You can go back and forth sideways, right? It's like a little workout in addition to making some really good cookies. Can you smell the vanilla? It smells so good. Okay, so now I have like a sort of creamy butter egg mixture, and we're now gonna do the last ingredients. It's actually that hard. I have a measuring cup, that's great. And okay, I've just gotten word that I'm going too fast. That's the story of my life. So I'm gonna give you a second to catch up while I talk to you about the idea behind these cookies. So I'm all about creative freedom, right? Like, we should be able to make things in as creative a way as possible. So I thought what we could do, sugar cookie, these window sugar cookies. So what we're gonna do, the idea behind this, is we're gonna put together the cookie dough, and then we're gonna roll it out, and we're gonna make 2 halves. We're gonna make 1 half, which is like a regular round, and we're gonna make another half, and out of that round, we're gonna cut a little window. And that window could be any shape. So start thinking about what shapes you want. You can do just a square or a circle. You can do a heart. You could try and do a witch's hat. You could try and do a little house, anything you want. It can be abstract. It can be something specific. And then we're gonna spread jam on the bottom half, and we're gonna put the window on top of the jam. And it's so much fun to see the jam peeking through. And it's kind of like the window in the oven door where all the kids are, kind of scary, kind of fun. So that's the plan. That's what we're making. And all right, I'm gonna keep going. Let's see if how are you doing? The butter, you got the buttercream, you've got the sugar in the butter, right? You've got, what else do we do? The egg and the vanilla. And I'm just checking that I have all mine. So now the next thing is you want to measure out about 3 cups of flour. We have a little extra flour in case we need it. One thing which is interesting about flour is that depending on where you are in the world, and I know you guys are all over the world, sometimes it's humid outside, sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's not. And so that affects how much flour you need. Isn't that crazy? Because sometimes the air is more wet, and so you need more flour. Or sometimes you're in a very dry place. Maybe some of you are in the desert in Arizona or wherever you are. And you need to then use less flour because it's dry. So baking is kind of an exact science, you know, compared to just cooking where you can put things in and taste. This is like chemistry almost, right? You have to measure everything. It has to be just right so that it rises in the oven. But what we're gonna do is use a little bit of our critical thinking skill to see what the texture of the dough is and make sure that we get it right based on what the climate is, what the weather is where you are. So I'm saying start with 3 cups, and then if we need to add more, it's always easier to add more than take away, as they say. Okay, so what I wanna add in with this flour is the baking powder and the salt. So 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I have my baking powder. I've got my teaspoon measure, and I want to show you guys something. With baking powder, I'll try and do both. With baking powder, you take a teaspoon like that, but you see all that extra on top? That's not so great because you're not getting an exact measurement. But you see most baking powder cans have this little lip, and what you can do, instead of having this like that, is you can drag it under the lip, and then it levels it off. And look at that, perfect teaspoon of baking powder. So I'm putting that in, not to the bowl yet, but to the flour, just so that it's there. And I'm gonna do a 2nd teaspoon. Ready? There it goes, leveled off, and 2nd teaspoon. And then I'm gonna ask for a teaspoon of salt. I put my salt in this little container. You might have it in a little thing, but just measure out a teaspoon. Here I have a teaspoon. I brush the top with my finger so it's level, and I put it in with the flour. Now, if you have a fork, you can put it with the flour and the baking soda, and you can just move it around a little bit together gently. Careful not to get your flour all over. But if you move it around gently, then you'll incorporate the baking soda and the salt and everything. How are you guys doing? Are you measured out? Are you ready to combine now? We're gonna have to use our hands again. This is the best thing to do. It's the morning here in New York. I'm in New York City in my little tiny apartment kitchen. So I'm sorry I'm so cramped and bent over. But this is the most fun that I could imagine having I think it's a Tuesday morning. Isn't it hard when we're in quarantine or we're isolated, or, I mean, everyone's in a different phase everywhere, but you forget what day it is. So it's Tuesday. I'm just having the best time baking with you guys. And now we're gonna put this all in. We just dump it all in. The flour goes in with the butter and the egg, and it's gonna seem like a lot of flour. And it is a lot of flour. So now, hold on, there we go. Now what we're gonna do is mix it slowly. If you go too fast, you'll see the flour, like go up on your face, which happens to me all the time. It'll get all over your clothes. So go slowly. And what you can do is you can drag the spatula around the end, and then when you get around the edge, and when you get to the middle, you kind of fold it in half. And if you keep making those motions, you'll start to feel the butter and the egg and all of that mixture combining. I feel like I should leave the flour there. What do you think? Should more? I mean, it's kind of fun, right? We're baking. I'll put some on my nose. There we go. Okay, so we're folding it in. We're mixing it up. Now, much like the butter, when we were doing the butter at the beginning with the powdered sugar, it feels like it's never going to come together. It's just a crumbly mess. You know what I mean? So what I suggest, again, is to use your hands. Let's have fun. So once you kind of have done some stirring, you can put your hand in and you'll feel it start to be really soft in some areas and really powdery in other areas. So you want to use it Okay, now if you want to use it to, I have to move my computer so you can see this, but that also means I'm going to get flour on my computer. This is so fun. Okay, so I'm kind of picking up, now you see it's falling apart in pieces like that. That's okay. It's going to start to come together. And as you mix it, you're just gently kind of pressing everything together and moving it around. Can you guys see enough? Sorry. There we go. It's my first time pretending to have a cooking show at home. And I'm having the best time with it. Okay, so mine is starting to come together. And it's still very crumbly, but that's good. When it's crumbly, it means that there's a lot of butter, and that's going to make it taste really good. How's your guys going? When I was making this recipe to test it out so that I could get it right for you guys, I added too much flour by accident. And the good thing about making mistakes and baking is that there's always a solution. So if you feel like, I would first, give it a second to combine it all, because it might very well come together. Mine, was feeling really crumbly, but now it's starting to come together more and more. See, I see less of that flour, and I'm moving it around. And if I squeeze it together with my hand like this, it starts to look like a dough, right? Which is nice. So what I'm going to do now is I have my cutting board, and I'm going to put everything onto the cutting board, even if it's not quite together. But there's not much flour. So I'm going to do this. Oh, hey, Dan.
Hi, Anthony. We have a question that's coming through. People are wondering what temperature to preheat their oven to.
Oh, my gosh, I forgot to preheat the oven. That's such a good point. Thank you guys for reminding me of that. 375. Preheat your oven. We're going to be rolling out cookies for a little while. Hopefully it'll get there. Thanks, Dan. I still have it all over my hands, so you're fine. Now, let me move my computer here. Can you guys see that okay? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move my baking powder out of the way. It's always good to clean. I find it's always good to clean while you go. Otherwise you're left with a mess at the end of the whole thing. So I'm just doing a little bit of cleaning while I go, moving my spatula. Okay. I'm putting things in the sink. Here we go. So now I have this dough, and you see there are little crumbly bits. Here, I'm just adjusting my camera. There are little crumbly bits all around it too. You can just pull them together with your hands. What I was going to say is, if you're feeling like your dough is way too dry, like it's not even coming together like this, go ahead and add a little bit of water. You can start with, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a cup, just a tiny bit, and add it in and see if that helps it come together. If it doesn't, then add a little bit more. And keep in mind, it's going to take a minute for the flour to incorporate. So I'm still seeing all kinds of little pieces like this, but now I'm starting to get this dough to come together little by little. How are you guys doing? Are you having fun? Are you frustrated? Are you doing perfectly, passing with flying colors better than I'm doing? It doesn't matter. It's all going to be so fine. It's going to be fun. It's hard to mess anything up too badly. So, okay. So now I've got my dough really coming together into a ball. I've got some little bits around, and I can play this game where I sort of roll the dough around and try and pick up the little bits. It's okay that it's crumbly. It's going to feel a little crumbly, and that's okay. But as long as it starts to really come together, you can press down with your hands. How's it going, guys? Oh, good. I see people's comments now. This is so fun. Lynn, I'm glad you're doing well. Lacey, I'm glad you're having fun. Okay. So I've got my dough kind of together. Give it a little tap. All right. And now you can clear off some of the extra bits if you want, like I'm doing here. And this is interesting. I'm just going to wipe my nose. Thank you, Ripley. I'm glad you're having fun. I I've got some of my powdered sugar, right? The extra powdered sugar. Instead of using flour to roll out this dough, we're gonna use powdered sugar because it's cookies, you know? So we put some powdered sugar just out on our cutting board like that. You can spread it out so that this helps the cookies not to stick. Hey, thanks, Raj. I'm having fun too. It's so fun to do this with you guys. Now, you've got your cookie dough. You can make it into like a little circle or a little square, however you want. If you want to make it square, you can tap it on the counter to give it edges, switch it around, however you want to do it. And then you flatten it out a little bit. And what I like to do is put one side in the powdered sugar, then flip it over so you have this little coating of powdered sugar here. Great. You guys are doing so well. So awesome. So now, take a rolling pin. I have this rolling pin. I think this is an Italian style rolling pin. You might have the kind that rotates and all of that, but this is the kind I have. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this out into 1/4 of an inch thick. What's a 1/4 of an inch thick, you ask? It's kind of like the thickness of an iPhone, maybe a little bit thinner than that, or the thickness of, I'm trying to think what else, like a piece of cardboard or something like that. So whatever you feel, the thicker the cookies are, the more of a mouthful it's gonna be, and the thinner they are, it's gonna be more crispy, but you're going for about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm also gonna take a little powdered sugar and put it on the rolling pin. How are we doing on time? We're okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna start rolling it out. And you might see some little cracked parts from the powdered sugar. That's okay, keep going. It's gonna be fine. And you can see, hey, thanks, Clara. And I see you're a ballet dancer. I love ballet. So now we're rolling this out. Great. How are you guys doing? So I did one direction first. I did this way. And then I'm rolling it out this way. And you want to use a little bit of pressure when you're pushing down on it so that it spreads it out a little bit. And if it, see how it kind of is breaking around the edges here in these little cracks, I'll do it this way some, and you'll see it'll do that there too. That's okay. Don't worry about it. The good thing about this dough is when you press it together, it comes back together. That's all it takes. It can break in two, doesn't matter. So keep rolling. It's gotta be a little bit thinner than you think, in my experience. So roll it out, roll it out. You guys are doing great. You're probably doing better than me. Wouldn't surprise me, all of these precocious kids. You know, food and music have always gone together. One thing that people don't know, I'm already sweating, do you see that? It's very hot in my kitchen with the oven on. One thing that people don't know about opera is that when it began, first it was in the courts of the nobility, and in the courts of, you know, Europe, people would eat dinner during the opera. And when it moved into public theaters, that's how it continued. It's kind of amazing. Actually, where most people sit in the opera house now, the theater where there are all the seats in what they call the orchestra section, I used to have no seats. And it used to be like a mosh pit at a rock concert, sort of, you know, people would go, they would stand, they'd bring their chicken, they'd eat their chicken, they would, you know, have all kinds of things. And meanwhile, the boxes above, they were like little houses. People had tables and people would eat dinner. And actually, instead of like now, where, you know, we can't really even make a noise, we can't unwrap a candy, people were eating and talking. It was very different. And as a countertenor, I sing a lot of music from the Baroque era. In the Baroque era, this is how music was made. And it wasn't until later, until this composer in the 20th century, or the late 19th century, Wagner, who decided that everything should be quiet and dark. And so that's how it, that's the history of opera and food. They went together. And of course, the other reason they go together is that opera singers love to eat. I'm one of those opera singers. We love to eat. So how's it going? Keep rolling out. Keep rolling out. You guys are doing great. Hopefully you got your powdered sugar underneath there so that it's making it not stick. But if it sticks, it's okay. We'll solve the problems. We solve all the problems. So you're rolling it out, and you can see here, it might stick to your pin and it'll break there. That's okay. You put it down. You see there's a little, oh, you probably can't see. I'll make another one over here. There's like a little crack or a little separation. You just push it back together. And I find it helpful to feel. You can feel around, and if something feels particularly thick, like this edge feels a little thick to me, then you roll it out. Great. So amazing that all of you are tuning in from so many different places, so many different countries, and I hope that we can all meet together in an opera house somewhere sometime soon. But I'm sure there are lots of old friends. I'm shouting out to Liza and Laurel and Xander out there. It's so nice to see you guys, and I'm happy to have so many new friends too. Okay, so if you think that you've got your dough rolled out, mine is pretty rolled out. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always correct it later. The next thing I want you to do, I'm just going to move this up for a second, is wash your hands if you're like me. So 1 second, I'm washing my hands. Okay. Do you guys ever watch cooking shows? On cooking shows, it's so quick. They always wash their hands so quickly. I don't know how they do it. Anyway, I'm drying my hands. I'm drying my forehead. Are you sweating too, or is it just me? And now what I want you to do is get a glass. I have this old glass. It was my grandmother's glass, and I thought I would use that. It's crystal. It's very pretty. It's an old glass. But you see, what I like about it is it's kind of sharp around the edges, and so I'm going to use it to cut out the cookies. So what you're going to do, if you have a cookie cutter, that's fantastic. Use a cookie cutter. Use anything. You can use a water glass. You can use any kind of glass you have. You could use the top to the baking soda if you wanted to just stamp. We're going to just cut anything circular you have. Works great. They can be any size. This is what I'm choosing to do. So what you're going to do is put the glass on the dough. You're going to gently push down, and what helps is if you turn it a little bit like this, then it kind of loosens, and what you're gonna get, ready, is a little cookie. So exciting. So if you're lifting this up and you feel like your dough isn't thin enough, you see this is about 1/4 of an inch, I think. If you feel like it's not thick enough, that's okay, you can put it all back together. I'm going to see if I can do this to show you. And then roll it back out. Look at that. It just disappeared right in there. You never even know. So you can't make any mistakes. Don't worry about it. Get your dough to the thickness you want. And then let's all start at the very edge. And you can punch out as many cookies as you want. So I'm going to go around here and do this. Now, as you guys are baking, if you have any questions about baking, about singing opera, about Hansel and Gretel, although we may have to bring our teacher extraordinaire in because though I know it and love it, I'm not as much of an expert as all of you guys. So you see, I'm going around the edges and making all of these little cookies here. Are you guys getting on okay? Have you gotten to the dough stage? I mean, this is complicated. We're making cookies. We're doing things right. Now, sometimes it'll get stuck within. Just give it a little tap. It'll fall out. And it's kind of like a little geometry. How should we prepare? Thank you, Clara. How should we prepare the baking sheet? There are 2 options. If you have a little non-stick cooking spray, you can do that. I don't have that, but I have what's called parchment paper. You could also use wax paper, but I like this parchment paper better. And I just put that on my cookie sheet, and we're done. You can also spray it down. If you don't have spray or paper, I say just put a little bit of butter down on the, spread it with your hands. So you're good. And what we're gonna do is keep cutting out. And it's a little bit like a geometry problem. How many circles can you fit in this dough? Great. And so I'm almost full up here. And then I always make the mistake, like there's a whole section here that is not going to fit a circle, but that's okay. I'll show you what we're going to do about that. So now I've gotten all the circles that I can fit here. And what I like to do is take out the middle stuff between the circles. And you can kind of pull it out from between them. It's going to look messy. It's going to fall apart. It's going to crumble. But that's okay. Just make a little pile over here and pull it apart. Great. You guys are doing fabulous. While we're pulling this apart, somebody asked what my favorite opera is that I've done. And, you know, I have to say I had the most fun doing Akhenaten, which is this amazing opera by Philip Glass, who's a composer who's still living. Can you imagine? An opera composer who's still alive. And he wrote this opera about the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten. Did you guys ever read about Akhenaten? Did you study ancient Egypt in school? Do you remember about him? He was the first person to invent monotheism, meaning that he's the first person that we know of who said there's just one God. And that changed the course of history. So it's a really interesting subject matter. Plus, in the opera, there's juggling, there's a lot of gold. They even put gold leaf on my forehead, little sheets of gold. It was amazing. And it was so much fun. It just so happens that it streams on the Met website on Saturday night to Sunday night. Or if you're in Europe, it'll be very late Saturday, like in the early hours of the morning until late Sunday. So check it out. It's actually, I find, a fantastic opera for kids. A lot of people came in New York and it was their first opera, the first opera they'd ever seen. And you know, you would think they would want to see La Bohème or Traviata or Tosca or one of those operas that, you know, we all have heard about if we've heard anything about opera. But in fact, this was a great introduction to opera because it was a subject people had studied in school or were studying in school. And the music is so beautiful. It's so fun to sing. The costumes, the juggling, everything was amazing. So how are you guys doing? Are you peeling out these little middle areas and you're left with a lot of circles? You guys are doing amazing. Okay, I have all of my circles and I have a little pile of scraps, right? My little piles of dough. I'm gonna start with the pile. Just remember how earlier we were forming it into a little dough ball? You do it again. There you go. All the scraps go together. Put that aside and save it for later. Now, you have to do a little bit of math. Actually, I should have told you to cut out an even number, but it's okay, it doesn't really matter. Take your cookies and put half of them on the baking sheet. So I'm gonna space them out like this, and you're gonna put half of these circles whole on your baking sheet. I want them spaced like that. Can you guys see? Okay. So, and actually one of mine just broke. So I wanna show you that, look at that, no problem. In the oven, it'll come together. Put it down, squeeze it together, pat it down a little bit. Then you're good and ready to go. So now we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm gonna put 8 of my cookies on the sheet. How are you guys doing? Better than me, I'm sure. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do with the remaining half is I'm gonna pick a shape. Recently, I've been feeling lots of love for all the people I can't see, for all the people I talk to on Zoom, for all of you guys and the audiences. So I'm gonna be cutting a heart out of the cookie. And what I'm using is just a butter knife, so nothing sharp, but always be careful. And I'm just sort of gently, you know, facing it toward the counter. You can't really see what I'm doing, but here you go. And I'm kind of tapping it along to make the shape that I want to make. And you guys can do the same thing now. As you do this, your cookie may split in two, and that's okay, because as I said earlier, we're going to be able to correct it. So I cut out a little heart. It's not a perfect heart, but it's a little heart. It's a heart for you guys. And what's left over is this cookie with a heart shape cut out of it. You see that? How fun is that? We're gonna put that on our baking sheet. Now, you have two options. With this inside part, you could add it to your scrap ball and then roll out more cookies, or you can just bake these and have little, it's kind of like the donut holes. So keep going now. And I know we have limited time, but I'm gonna take you through it anyway. I'm gonna show you some of these. I'm gonna do one that's just a circle. If you like a circle, that's kind of fun, right? I'm gonna try, what should I try? What kind of shapes are you guys doing? Tell me what you're making, what you think I should try. Oh, you're using a cookie cutter, Lynn. That's great. If you have a cookie cutter for the shape in the middle, that's fantastic. I'm gonna try a witch's hat. I don't really know how that should look, but I'm gonna try that. And yeah, tell me what shape you're doing. So I see this here is gonna be my witch's hat. It's like a little triangle and then it gets wider at the bottom. Have any of you ever dressed as a witch? Have you ever met a witch? Here we go. Oops. See, now mine is falling apart, so I have to be really careful as I show it to you. But the good thing about this dough is you can put it all back together. So it's kind of a little witch's hat there, but I'm gonna make it, and I just want to show you because it's always good to share your mistakes. See how this totally fell apart and the shape went away? Well, look, if I put it on the cookie sheet and I arrange it and I squeeze it together, sorry, you can't really see what I'm doing, it's gonna be just fine. It's gonna come all together the way that it should. Look at that, amazing. See, and then we have it back together with a little witch's hat. So you see, anything is possible. So keep going, making your shapes. I'm gonna keep going too. Oh, and you're making stars. Stars is a great idea, you guys. I wanna try a star too. I'm sure I'm not as good at this kind of thing as you are. But the good thing is, baking is very forgiving. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, it's gonna be delicious, you know what I mean? Wow, my star is really not very pretty. But I like it anyway, it's gonna be fun. So yeah, this is great. Good idea with the star. Oh, circles. Circles are my favorite. Also, they look really pretty when they're baked. So, okay, I've got a star. And I'm sliding it off of the counter. It's breaking. And then I put it on the cookie sheet and put it back together. That's just how it goes. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then you see I have a little star shape over there. And yes, butterflies I saw are fantastic. So keep going with your cookies. And just in the interest of time, you guys finish cutting out whatever shapes you have. I'm gonna put mine in the oven. And then I'm going to talk to you for a second. So hold on. The oven is at 375. Hopefully it's hot by now. Be careful. Don't do what I did, actually. Get a baking mitt. Be very careful when you're touching the oven. Let your parents do it if you can, because it gets really hot. I wish my parents were here to put my cookies in for me. But if you slide the cookies in, make sure you get the sheet in the center of the oven and put it in there, and then you want to set your timer right away for about 8 minutes. So are you setting your timer? I'm going to set mine on my phone, which my phone is now full of all kinds of butter and flour and sugar, just like my face. And this is it's a fun job. Okay, I'm setting mine for 8 minutes, starting there. And now I'm going to wash my hands one more time. Any questions? Anything? How are you guys doing? So they're asking me how and when, Sam, hey Sam, did I start working at the Met? The Met is the most incredible opera house in the world. It really is. It's one of the largest. It seats almost 4,000 people. Can you imagine 4,000 people? And a lot of people don't know this about opera, but there are no microphones. There are no wires. You're just singing with your natural instrument. And that's what's so fantastic about opera. I mean, think about it. The one instrument we all share as a human race is the human voice, right? It is a description of who we are on the inside. It's how you can hear who we are. And the human voice, the way it works is with air, something else we all share. So we take a breath in. Hold on, I'm gonna adjust my camera so I can stand up. We take a breath in, and as the air travels up through our lungs and out, we feel it pass between our vocal cords. And what happens is that our vocal cords are like blowing a piece of grass between your thumbs. They make a little vibration when the air comes through, and they buzz in here. Now, if someone cut off my head, which hopefully they won't, all you would hear that comes out when I sing is a little buzzing sound. But as that buzz travels up and bounces, it bounces off the inside of your mouth. Now, if I open my mouth really wide, are you guys ready? You're gonna see the back of my throat. Ah, can you see it? If I open my mouth really wide back there, the sound has all of this space to bounce around in. And that's my microphone. That's my natural microphone. So I feel the buzzing bouncing around, and it takes on shape, and it takes on color, and it takes on character. And I can express so many things that I'm feeling. I can express my soul. It's an amazing way. So as this travels out, it goes into the ears of other people with no barriers. There's no wire, there's no speakers, there's none of that. So it's a very special art form. And when we're all able to be back in the same room, you can feel in the air the excitement around it. Now, earlier, someone was asking, how high do you actually sing as a countertenor? That's a good question. And how do you do it? I sing in a falsetto. I'm just like Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, Michael Jackson, Prince, you name all the pop stars who sing in that high voiced countertenor. They don't call it countertenor, they just call it a voice. And that's what it is. But it can be kind of shocking because I do it in an operatic way. So how much time is time? We have 5 minutes. Do you guys want a little song? Would that be good? Let's do, oh yes, that's true. To answer your question, I practiced. I must have been singing for 15, 20 years, a long time since I was a kid before I got to the Met. And I was so excited. Can you imagine? I did the competition in 2009 where they compete state by state, or even town by town, and then state by state, and then it's the national level. And I won the Met competition in 2009, and that got me a contract to make my debut in 2011. I was so thrilled. I still can't believe I get to sing there. And so I want to sing a little bit for you now while the cookies are in the oven, because that's usually what I do, is I sing while the cookies are in the oven. I don't have any Hansel and Gretel. It's not what I sing, but I'm just going to sing you a little bit of Handel from my debut, Rodelinda, as they just put on the screen. This is Dove Say, and I hope you guys can hear it okay. It's going to be bad sound over the computer, but you know, a little singing while you're baking never hurt anyone. Dove say, amato bene, vieni l'alba a consolar, a consolar. Vieni, vieni, amato bene, dove sei? Dove sei? Vieni l'alba a consolar. I just felt like you guys deserved a little bit of singing because you're doing this baking with me. That's what a countertenor is, isn't it crazy? Oh, thank you, Chloe. I'm so glad that it reached you. It's so nice to connect however we can connect. Thanks, Dean. Thank you for saying my voice is beautiful. And thanks, Irene. I'm so happy we get to share this. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And I encourage you, listen to opera, listen to different kinds of music. That was Handel, a composer not a lot of people know about. Listen to countertenors. And take a listen to my album, ARC. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere you want. But really, listen to anyone. Everything's on YouTube. It's easily accessible if you have internet. And let us know how we can help, how we can send songs, email them, whatever we can do. As you know, the Met's streaming every night a different opera. So if you have questions about, thank you, Grace. If you have questions about what it is to sing, about what your singing is. I love learning about different kinds of singing. There's so much music in other cultures that is different from opera, and I love that. It inspires me. It teaches me how to do opera. So I hope you guys continue making music, making art, making cookies, whatever you can do, whatever you want to do. So the cookies are baking for 7 to 9 minutes. Put them in whenever you can. Put your timer on. Remember to be careful with the oven. We've only got 3 seconds left. I'm sweating because my oven is on. Are any of you sweating, or is it just me? Can you see it? And I'm dabbing. There we go. I have to say, on the opera stage, you sweat a lot too. Sometimes it gets really hot, and then other times it's freezing cold, so you never know. But imagine one summer I was on an opera house stage in a big jacket, and we have wigs. I had a long wig on, and it was the summer, and it was a festival. So there was this opera house that had no air conditioning. It was a place called Glimmerglass, and I must have sweat so much. It's important to drink water when you're singing opera. So remember, 7 to 9 minutes. It depends on your oven. They don't need to get brown. Just here's my timer. Just a hair of golden brown. Let me check mine. Or let's go together and check mine, should we? Okay. I'm going to turn the light on my oven. Now look, they're barely brown in there. They're just cooking. They're just making it. I think they need a few seconds more. There you go. So I'm going to give them a second more. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you guys for the temperature readings. And I'm sorry, I'm not a professional cooking show host. Can you smell cookies? I smell mine. I hope you smell my cookies. Ready? I've got my oven mitt, my very old, someone gave me this oven mitt in high school, and I still have it. It's been through a lot. Same with these. So I've got my oven mitt. I'm being very careful. Ooh, cookies. Okay, so there we go. Now, what you want to do is let them cool for 5 minutes. You don't want them to be hot when you're working with them, and also you don't want to burn yourself. So put it on a counter on the cookie sheet. You can let them cool on the cookie sheet. And then if you look at this, I've got some cookies and shapes and scraps and things like that. But here's the rest of the cookie. Now let's say you didn't want to make more cookies. You didn't want to take it off your cookie sheet and do more. That's okay. You can do 2 things. You can wrap this up in a little bit of plastic wrap, or you can put it in a plastic bag, whatever you have, and put it in the fridge and make cookies tomorrow. Or if you don't think you'll have time this week to make more cookies, put it in the freezer and then defrost it. It's the joy of having some extra cookie dough. And you can make them in all kinds of shapes. You don't have to make the jam cookies, so they're good to have. So save your extra dough, or roll it all out, make cookies, and give them to your friends. I love giving cookies to my friends. I love having friends over and cooking for them. I'm glad that you guys are smelling it. I'm smelling yours. I'm imagining it. You want to take a breath all together and pretend we're smelling cookies? That's actually a good way to help open your vocal cords and your vocal tract. There's that little piece of skin at the back of your throat called the soft palate, and we have to lift that up to sing. It's like that. And so one way to do that is smelling cookies. You want to try it with me? Let's all take a breath in. Did you feel it lift? It's like the beginning of a yawn. That's what we do before we sing. So instead of going, if I kept it really flat, it would be like this. Ah! No one likes that sound. But if I lift it up, ah! Isn't that better? So just remember, smell the cookies before you sing. Okay. So let your cookies cool for 5 minutes, because we're nearing the end, I'm going to show you what we do next. Now, if you remember, Hansel and Gretel were looking for strawberries, so I got some strawberries for you. And I just got store-bought jam. Of course, if you can make your own jam, you could use Nutella. If you like Nutella, you could use peanut butter. You could use anything you can spread. I would say use it. Lemon curd if you're feeling fancy. And also, if you want to make your cookies more fancy and add some lemon zest into this dough, or you could add some cardamom spice, or you could add cinnamon sugar on the outside. You can really do anything with these. So let me get you now. Okay. I've got my cookies, which are a little hot, but I've got my heart cookie, and I've got just a regular one like this. So what we're going to do now is take the jam, right? Use your butter knife carefully, and you want to spread the jam all over the cookie. So there you go. You don't have to be perfect about it, but just, spread it out. If it falls off, you can wipe it off. So there we go. And remember, your cookies ideally are cooled down now. And I've spread it, and you see it's not perfect, but it's fine. Now here's the fun part. You're gonna take the window cookie, and you're gonna put it on. I'm not gonna show it to you until it's done. You ready? You ready? It's very exciting. Hold on, I'm gonna get it perfect. Okay. And oops, sorry. I have to remember it's in the opposite direction. How cute is that cookie? It's a little wonky heart. Now, if you want to make it really fancy, I have some extra powdered sugar laying on my board here. And you could just tap it into the powdered sugar, give it a little bit of a powdered sugar dusting, and you can just shake it out, put it there if you want, and have these beautiful little cookies. You can watch Hansel and Gretel from Wednesday, as it says down there, and I hope when you do, you think about these cookies and you think about me as the evil witch. Now, one other kitchen tool I thought I would show you guys, which you will never use until you're older like me, but if I were going to be the witch, it would be like this. And I use this to caramelize the creme brulee, to make the meringues. Kind of scary, right? That's what I use when I'm doing my really fancy baking. So one day you'll have a blowtorch and experiment. Okay, should we do the taste test, you guys? Let's see what it's like. So good. The salt that's in the dough, you would think it's weird to put salt in something sweet, but it really gives it texture and flavor. Mine are good. I hope yours are good. Let us know if you have any questions, if we can do anything. Hey, Dan.
Anthony, oh my gosh, that was so awesome.
Thank you.
I love that. We got so many comments. People love the baking. They loved hearing you sing. I hope you can hear me okay. My Wi-Fi was a little wobbly at the beginning. All good?
It's great.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Let's give a big global summer camp thank you to Anthony, wherever you are. Just give him some sparkle fingers. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Now, remember, you can watch this video again, and you can follow the instructions a second time through if you missed something the first time around. This will stay live on Facebook and YouTube, or live. It'll stay recorded. Anthony, you are wonderful. You are this baking demonstration has made me so hungry. I think I'm going to go make some cookies. And remember, listen to Anthony's album, ARC, while you're doing your baking. It's available on Spotify. It's everywhere. And remember, you can start watching the Met Opera production of Hansel and Gretel tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's New York City, US time, for 48 hours. Okay, we'll see you back here tomorrow, everybody, where Met Opera Executive Stage Director Paula Swazi will interview Tara Erot, a famous mezzo-soprano, and Hye-sung Park, who is a soprano. We'll have a great conversation with them about their education and their career and their steps that, just like Anthony, that they took to the Metropolitan Opera stage. Anthony, I'm just going to let you say goodbye to all the campers. I'm going to get out of here, hang out for a minute, say hi. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you guys again. I hope this is a great way to think about opera, to see how it's all involved one with the other. Without cookies, we wouldn't be able to sing. I'm so glad you joined me. I hope I get to join you guys. I hope I get to hear you sing. I hope I get to taste your cookies. This is a global family that is united by beauty, by music, and by happiness and the joy we take in making things together. So keep making things, stay motivated, and thanks for joining us today. Great to see you. Bye.